So welcome, Kiana.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now we're just come out of HSC Trials, which is obviously a pretty stressful time. It's the first time that you've got the entirety of the HSC course being examined in a single sitting, exam block. And so what I thought would be really great is just to dive in and have a chat today about how you navigated the process. You know, what were the things that you did and the support that really helped in just enabling you to hopefully get through with less stress and also, improve the results so that you could create more options for yourself. Now, just to kick it off, what subjects are you taking for your HSC?
I do legal studies, I do PDH, English Advanced, English Extension and Maths General.
Yeah, is that all of them? You got them all?
Yeah. And Studies of Religion one.
Cool.
Sorry. Okay, there you go.
Awesome. So how many units is that?
That's 10.
10. So you've gone in with a strategy of let's take 10 and do your best at 10.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Now, in the lead up to your HSC trials, I know you were working with your Pathfinder mentor, Georgia.
Yes.
What were you doing in your sessions in terms of, preparing for trials with her?
So we set up a plan, breaking up my subjects into each day. Of those plans, I think it was probably 3 to 4 weeks before my trials, we started planning. The main thing was not to burn out in 1 week, so we spread it evenly, maybe 2 to 3 hours of work per day on 2 subjects per day, and especially seeing which ones I needed more work with and just doing that up until my trials. We made it in the first week, the plan, and I just stuck with it, and Georgia just checked in with me after 2 weeks just to make sure I was solid.
So just want to dive in and ask a couple of questions there. So it was sort of almost 30 days before, give or take, right? It sounds like. And so then your approach was to basically do like each day was maps. You'd have like some form of calendar, and so you knew on that calendar, like, okay, these are the subjects I'm going to do this day. Yes. So I'm doing, maths and English, or I'm doing studies of religion and legal, or whatever it is. Yeah. So you knew, and then it sounds like you weighted those subjects based on what ones that you were struggling more with, or ones that you were really good at and you wanted to do really well at. Yes, or a bit of both.
The ones that I was maybe struggling with in terms parts of the content, in the earlier weeks I make sure to make those parts of the content like solid and make sure I grasp the content fully. And then closer to the trials I started doing past papers and started doing questions similar to exam style. I learned this from Pathfinders, which was do in less time and harder exam questions, so that when you get into the exam, it's easier for you. So I was mostly doing content study in the first 2 weeks, and the last week just past papers throughout the entire week. Great. And between each exam as well.
And so was that then something that you had sort of worked out with Georgia, where you and Georgia, your mentor, were looking not only at, like how many hours you're going to study per day and what subjects am I going to study per day, but you were also on top of that, it sounds like, going, all right, for legal, here's what I've got to do. Like, I've got to get these topics done, I've got to do these past papers, I've got to write these practice essays.
Yes, and it was just a whole different kind of exam because it's exactly what the HSC would be. So the time's 3 hours, there's 3 essays, plus short answer and multiple choice, so it was a lot of work to be done. So it was a lot of essay scaffolds, essay plans, all that needed to be done before I actually started writing. So it was a lot of preparation mostly in those weeks, and then having a go at doing the exam style questions the week before.
So it sounds like then, in terms of the plan that you were sort of working on with Georgia, your Pathfinder mentor, it sounds like there's 3 parts to it. Yes. There's the day by day, what subjects am I doing? There's for each of these days, how long am I going to study in a way that ensures that I don't burn out, so that you can keep on going throughout that entire journey, which is really important. And then third and final, it was almost like it was your subject to-do list of, if I'm going to sit down and do legal today or English tomorrow, it was like, what am I going to do? I need to do the scaffolds, I need to do the practice questions.
Yes.
What was the best piece of advice you received from your Pathfinder mentor, Georgia, about preparing for trials?
So she really said to me that it's important with the whole burnout thing, it's less about the exact time that you need to study, more about what you do in that study time. So the tasks that you set for yourself, and not putting like 10 tasks, be realistic about what you can do, when you want to do it. And she even, with our planning, she recommended that I just leave like Friday afternoon off, because being like overworking yourself, by the time you get to your exam, you're not going to perform as best as you could. So she really made her point that you need to be at the top of your game, and that includes your well-being and your overall mental state as well. So yeah, it's not all about just getting the work done, it's about feeling good, feeling confident.
And what, if you feel comfortable sharing, like what were your stress levels like in the trials compared to prior assessments? Did you feel like they were, like, were you stressed or?
I actually wasn't that stressed compared to just mid-years, which in terms of weighting is totally like different. Mid-years I was very, very stressed, and trials I was confident in knowing that I had planned and I had prepared sufficiently, and I'm just going to do the best that I can. And so seeing my marks as well, trials is better than mid-years. Mid-years was less than what I had hoped for, and trials was better. So it just shows that stress is also a very big component in your performance as well.
That's right, and so it can have actually nothing to do with what you're capable of, but the stress can definitely get in the way. So it sounds like that plan made quite a difference then in just reducing the stress so that you could just do your best.
Just focus on your abilities rather than, I'm not going to know what's in the exam, that type of mentality, yeah.
And then what subject did you struggle with the most to study for?
I feel like English and just English subjects in general, it's a little bit harder to study for, because just of the style of the exam in general, it's a lot more time consuming, I'd say, because you also need to practice analysis of the quotes in itself. So there's a lot of small components that go into your overall performance in the exam. There's also short answer, like there's a lot of different components that you need to ace in themselves. There's like so many booklets that you need to do for English. It was a subject that I was like struggling studying for, but we started early with English as well in the planning, so that overall it was the one that I had worked most on, because it was what I was struggling with the most.
And because you had 3 units of it as well, so of course it also is weighted quite a lot for you. So then, in terms of the plan that you put in place for English, what did that look like to help you, sort of manage the challenge of the subject?
With Georgia, even before we planned for trials, we made sure that my notes were all done before trials for all the texts, both extension and advanced English. And then through the planning, we just practiced using those notes to make essay plans, or using those notes even just to make further analysis on it. And then through those techniques, we practiced short answer. And especially with short answer questions, we practiced timed answering responses, and just making sure that I didn't fall behind. And that also in itself gave me confidence that it won't happen in the exam, since I've already practiced doing it, yeah.
Now, did you have any extracurriculars or jobs that you had to juggle while studying for your trials?
Yes, so I work at Woolworths, and I'm a casual, so it's not that I work every day, but I still am required to work, a couple times a week. And so managing, as I said, I have a plan to study every day, a couple of hours, managing that and putting it in time slots where it's not at like 9 o'clock at night where I'm not going to be able to focus. Putting in time slots where I know I'm going to be, aware of and mentally ready to learn something, and not tired and just, it's not productive if you're just, copying stuff down and not remembering it. So just juggling it and putting it in time slots where I know I'm not working, and also I know that it's going to be productive study as well.
So how did you manage to fit in the study and the work? Because I feel like a lot of students, when they get into year 12, quit any casual job, and they dial back on the extracurriculars so they can do the study. How did you fit it all in terms of timing, to do your study and do the casual work at Woolies?
A lot of my weekends were, I also talked with my manager and said that I'm available on weekends, and I made the weekdays just like my study time, and for weekends, I did a lot of work, so 5 to 6 hours, Sunday and Saturday. And also, I just looked at it through the perspective of I need a balance, between studying and just my life in general. And so it kind of also in itself, it relieved some stress of not studying every day. Because I was like that type of person where if I just stayed at home and didn't study, even though I had studied like every day, I'd feel guilty. So it's kind of something that'll keep you busy, but also relieve some stress off you in the times that you're not studying.
I think it also was important in the end because I think it featured as part of your early entry application.
It was a great activity that I put down.
Which you were successful in. You got an early entry offer for your dream course at Macquarie Uni for combined psychology and law, which is fantastic. So, it really seems like it paid dividends to keep it, not only because it helped you reduce your stress and create a sense of balance, which ultimately would enable you to do better academically. It also was something that helped you, get the early entry offer that also reduced the stress.
Yeah, so it's like I just saw it as the whole kind of risk and reward kind of situation. You do risk kind of the time that, you have to study and you're kind of using it for work as well. But the rewards, for me has been plenty. Both relieving stress and plus being one of the components of aspects that gained me in early entry to Macquarie. So for my dream degree. So a lot of reward.
And it sounds like what was also really helpful just for students struggling to manage the commitments is it sounds like, you had a conversation with your boss, with work and made it very clear that for you to maintain that commitment, you needed to work for you as well, and that meant weekends, basically, which is really great to hear. So, what tips or study strategies did either your Pathfinder mentor or the program and the workshops and the intensives sort of provide and teach you that ended up being really useful for you preparing for your trials?
One thing that I really took away from the intensives with Pathfinder and also with my mentor Georgia was targeting my weaknesses. So the traffic light system, the red would be what you're worst at, orange would be what you're moderately good at, and then green would be your set. Just maybe look over it once and you'll be great for the exam. I went through the syllabus of all my subjects before planning for my trials and used a couple highlighters to show myself what I needed to work on and what I was already good at. So when planning and when making those individual specific plans for each subject, this is what I have to cover before I attempt a practice paper. So it really made it easy knowing what was already done and what I needed to work on. And so it also relieved a lot of stress. So I'd really encourage that for other students as well.
Before sort of, getting mentoring on the studying and the planning with Georgia and attending the workshops, what were you struggling with the most in terms of your study and school?
In terms of study, I just felt like I was working really hard, but I wasn't really getting the results that I wanted. And so comparing it with what I know now from the Pathfinders program and what I had done before, I wasn't really studying efficiently. So in maths, for example, I was studying everything, in everything. And so I wouldn't end up getting to the things that I was bad at. I had just, gone over what I was good at already. And so when it comes to the exam, my performance wouldn't be as great because half the things would be what I was not the best at. So after Pathfinders, I kind of changed my studying routine to be more effective and smarter rather than working harder, which really it showed in my results. And that's when you know that you're doing something right when it comes back in your results.
What would be your top 3 tips for other students studying for their HSC trials?
Yeah, so the first big one was being organised. The second one was, I think, which I didn't really touch on, but I think is very important, is to not cut out your social life and time with your family and friends, because that's what maintains your, happiness and your well-being. Because being stuck in just studying all the time, you could feel like especially if it's hard and you're not getting results at the beginning. You could get really angry and frustrated. It just won't be a great environment. And then lastly, I just think use all your resources. Don't just go and towards the HSC blindly and just think one way, one way or the highway. Just seek out the options that you could take, what opportunities you have. If you're working, maybe think about, should I put it aside, or what benefits will it give me if I keep it? So really measure out all your options and see what would benefit you the most. Be really open-minded throughout the year.
And then final question, the Pathfinder program has 3 core objectives: helping students lift results, find direction, and stand out. How has the Pathfinder program helped you lift your results over the year?
So it has really helped me lift my results through teaching me the skills needed to lift your results, especially with my studying, because I always did study hard, but again, I never studied the right way, and it really guided me towards how to study the right way. And also, even with communicating with other students, being able to see what's working for them and applying it to your own study has been really good as well. And I have seen results with my exams and my subjects, so it's been great.